How do you capture the spirit of a literary work, its core message, so to speak, concisely in a game? Can you shape the game's mechanics in such a way that it clearly conveys the core message to the player and compels them to engage with the work that inspired it? Today, I'm going to try to make a game that does just that. My name is Omay, I make games, and here is how I made a game based on a poem by legendary American rapper Tupac Shakur. The poem that inspired this exercise is The Rose That Grew from Concrete. It talks about the importance of holding on to one's dreams when facing insurmountable obstacles and finding a way forward without having a support system to fall back on. It undoubtedly reflects Tupac's own tough childhood. In just 4 lines, it inspires the reader to keep going in the face of their own challenges. So, the question is, how do you even begin to make a game out of something like this? Well, for this one, I settled on a literal interpretation. The theme, the graphics, and the win condition will be a seed finding its way through the ground and trying to make its way to the crack in the concrete. I'm taking the premise of the poem literally to design the goal of the game.
On the other hand, for the game mechanics, I wanted it to be a classic puzzle game. What do I mean by that?
There are 2 ways in which I see puzzle games. First, some are built around the aha moment. These are your favorites like Braid, Portal, Steven's Sausage Roll, and many more. You start with the core mechanic and then add more mechanics gradually on top of it as the game progresses.
The interplay of the core and additional mechanics is where the interesting puzzles emerge. As Jonathan Blow likes to say, each puzzle then teaches the player a fundamental truth of the underlying mechanics that was not apparent before.
So, in these kinds of puzzle games, figuring out that interplay between mechanics is often the aha moment that leads to solving a puzzle and makes it satisfying. I have done this already with Frame of Reference, which you can check out on my itch.io.
For this game, however, I wanted a simpler approach, similar to classic puzzle games I like, such as Sudoku, Klotski, and Free Cell. These games have simple rules and all levels have the same goal.
There's definitely a strategy involved, but there are no additional mechanics that get introduced in each level. Once you have learned everything that there is to know about the mechanics, it becomes a matter of skill and, of course, some luck. This also allows me to create levels with procedural generation, ensuring endless replayability. The trick with this kind of puzzle design is to balance it in such a way that once the player has mastered all the rules, the act of solving the puzzle puts you in a flow state. It then becomes a relaxing and meditative experience that keeps you hooked and coming back. So, with an initial vision in mind, I thought to myself, what does a seed want? Water and nutrients that allow it to grow. So, what if the game were about navigating obstacles underground till you are resilient enough to break the surface? At the beginning of the game, you have a set number of resources that you start with. As you make your way through the dirt around obstacles such as rocks, the resources you have will deplete for every step that you take. To counter this, every tile along your path also has a resource that you can pick up. So the basic challenge is to make it to the end of the level without running out of resources. In short, I was making a maze-like game where the path is determined by the resource count on each tile. So, now that I have a plan, it was time to attack. First, I built a simple version of the game where I could manually design the levels and play it from start to finish. This was the easy part. Next, I started working on the level generation algorithm. I knew I needed to generate a maze. I settled on an approach where I create templates of levels where the rocks, start and exit are placed manually. The rest of the algorithm just places the resources and tries to create playable levels. To create playable levels, I needed to fulfill 3 conditions. A level can only have one solution, that is, only one path to the exit is solvable. Next, for a solvable path, the value of both resources at the exit should be 0. That is, you shouldn't be able to complete the level with leftover resources. And finally, when you are traversing the path, None of the resources should go to zero. I went through 5 iterations of the level generation algorithm. And finally, with a new fresh coat of paint, the game was ready. But I didn't want to stop here. I wanted to go further with the metaphor and tie it to something, for the lack of a better word, concrete. There are thousands of inspirational figures throughout history, like Tupac, who have made an impact on the world. As the path through the underground maze represents a journey, I wanted each step to represent a milestone in the lives of these figures. So I wrote a Python script that pulls the Wikipedia data for a long list of these notable people and then feeds it to AI to get a bullet point summary of their life journey that matches the number of steps you need to take to complete a level. So that is how I have arrived at the current version of what I'm calling Roses in Concrete, for the simple reason that I can't call it the same name as the poem it is inspired by due to trademark and copyright issues. I also want to announce that Steam has unbanned me. I can publish on the platform again. To find out why I was banned in the first place and hear my over decade long game development story, check out this video. I'm launching the game on 16 June, which also happens to be Tupac's birthday, which I think is very fitting. Please wishlist it and try the demo on itch.io if you find this interesting. The link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like. Subscribe to me for more games and game development stories in the future. You can also support me by signing up for my Patreon. I'm also available for contract work as a Unity programmer. Please send inquiries to my email address.